The Reagan administration today set the stage for a major foreign policy battle with Congress. It announced plans to sell Saudi Arabia additional equipment to increase the range and attack power of the F-15 jet fighters already ordered by the Saudis. The State Department said that the approval of extra-large fuel tanks and air-to-air missiles is needed to counter a serious deterioration of American security interests in the region. Israel criticized the U.S. decision, saying it will escalate a Middle East arms race and endanger Israeli security. More on the story from Diane Sawyer.
State Department officials say the military equipment for Saudi Arabia is part of a bigger plan designed to stabilize the Persian Gulf and eventually ensure a U.S. military presence there. With this in mind, the State Department will ask Congress next week for an increase in security assistance of about 10%. Increased military aid not just for Saudi Arabia and Israel, but for Egypt, Oman, Tunisia, Somalia, Kenya, and Morocco as well. Reagan officials insist military increases are needed to combat Soviet gains in Afghanistan, South Yemen, Ethiopia, and to counter Soviet missiles aimed at the Gulf and Soviet troops on the Iranian border. All signs, they say, of creeping Soviet influence. This was the same theme the president struck today at his news conference when he was asked about El Salvador and described the Cubans and Soviets this way.
Those who aren't just aiming at El Salvador, but I think are aiming at the whole of Central and possibly later South America, and I'm sure eventually North America, but this is what we're doing, is trying to stop this destabilizing force of terrorism and guerrilla warfare.
The president again ruled out the use of American troops in El Salvador, even to protect the American advisors who are there.
We realize that there is a risk and a danger. None of them will be going into combat. We can't, I'm sorry to say, make it risk-free, but we shall do our utmost to provide for their safety.
Finally, the president was asked if his tough talk on El Salvador might revive the campaign charge that he is a warmonger.
I didn't start the El Salvador thing. I inherited it. And the previous administration, which probably was as vociferous as anyone in talking about my threat to peace, they were doing what we're doing, sending aid to El Salvador, of the same kind of aid that we're sending. And I've been here more than 6 weeks now and haven't fired a shot.
U.S. officials say El Salvador has prompted a reevaluation of Central America, similar to the reevaluation of the Persian Gulf. They say another comprehensive aid package, this one for Guatemala, Costa Rica, and Honduras, is now under consideration as well. Diane Sawyer, CBS News at the State Department.